sometimes the person standing next to you at the altar isn't the one your heart chose. It's the one your life settled for. And you can see it, if you pay attention, not in what they say, but in the tiny pauses between words, the way their smile lands a second too late, like it had to be remembered instead of felt. It doesn't look like heartbreak. It looks functional. Here's what most people don't realize. Love isn't always the reason people get married. In fact, for a surprising number of people, it's not even in the top 3. Security is. Social pressure is. Timing is. And sometimes, fear is louder than love ever was. You've probably seen it without noticing. A couple that looks perfect in photos, always coordinated, always composed. But watch closely when no one's talking. Their eyes don't search for each other. Their bodies don't lean in. It's subtle, but it's there, the absence of something that should feel obvious. But here's the part that gets uncomfortable. People don't wake up one day and decide to marry someone they don't love. It happens slowly, quietly, rationally. At first it sounds reasonable. They're good for me. They treat me right. It just makes sense. And logic starts replacing emotion. Because logic feels safer. It doesn't keep you up at night wondering if you're enough. And this is where things start to shift. The brain begins to reward stability over intensity. The chaos of real attraction, the kind that makes your voice slightly unsteady, that makes you overthink a text, that gets labeled as risky, unreliable. So people choose calm instead of connection. But calm isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just the absence of feeling. If you've ever been around a couple like this, you've noticed the conversations. They're efficient, predictable. There's no curiosity in their questions, no real listening in their silence. It's like they're playing roles they've already memorized. And here's something most people miss completely. Attraction isn't just about physical chemistry. It's about attention. Where your mind goes when you're not forced to think. Who you instinctively turn toward when something funny happens. Who you want to tell things to, even when it doesn't matter. When that's missing, people compensate. They invest in the idea of the relationship instead of the feeling of it. And it works, for a while. But here's the contradiction no one talks about. The more stable the relationship feels without love, the harder it becomes to admit something is wrong. Because there's nothing obviously broken. No fights, no betrayal, just a quiet absence. And that silence can trap people for years. You might notice it in the way one partner laughs just a little louder in public, like they're trying to convince the room, or themselves. Or the way they hesitate before touching, like physical closeness needs permission instead of being automatic. It doesn't seem obvious at first, but the body always tells the truth before the mind does. And then there's timing. Timing is one of the most underrated forces in human relationships. Sometimes people don't marry the person they loved the most. They marry the person who showed up when they were ready to stop searching. That's not romance, that's alignment. But alignment without emotional depth can feel hollow over time. And this is where internal conflict starts to build, because part of them knows something is missing, but another part says, this is good enough, don't ruin it. So they stay, they commit, they build a life. But deep down there's a quiet question that never fully goes away. What would it feel like if this was real? And that question doesn't disappear. It shows up in unexpected moments. A random conversation with someone new. A memory they thought they had moved on from. A feeling they can't quite explain. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Humans are incredibly good at adapting. You can get used to almost anything, even a love that isn't really love. But getting used to something doesn't mean you're fulfilled by it. And that's where the real cost shows up. Not in dramatic endings, but in slow emotional distance. Two people living side by side, functioning perfectly, but never truly seeing each other. If you've noticed this before, you already understand something most people don't. Marriage isn't proof of love. It's proof of a decision. And decisions can be influenced by fear, pressure, timing, and expectation, just as much as they are by emotion. That doesn't make those people bad. It makes them human. But it does raise a question you shouldn't ignore. Are you choosing someone because you feel deeply connected to them? Or because it feels safe to stop looking? Because those two paths might look identical at the start, but they lead to very different lives. And once you see that difference, you can't unsee it. If you want to understand human behavior on a deeper level,